And we're live. Welcome, everybody, here to the Lakers Lowdown Podcast. I'm Anthony Irwin, Lakers insider for Lakers Daily. Today on the show, we are going to be talking about juniors. Wendell Carter Jr., Gary Trent Jr., LeBron James Jr. Well, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Ken Griffey Jr. No, we're probably not talking about him. Best baseball swing of all time. But we are going to be talking about those first two guys for sure. I do have some thoughts on Bronny and the coverage to this point. And then I also, if there's time, maybe I'll talk about the whole Derek White thing, him being added to Team USA's roster instead of Jaylen Brown, who apparently has real interest in joining the team. We'll talk about that as well. And then obviously, as always, if you guys have any questions or comments along the way and you leave them in the form of a super comment, I will go ahead and answer those on the show as well. Let's dive on in though. So I'm going to start with Wendell Carter Jr. For no particular reason. I like him as a basketball player. Like I've loved his game. Heading into the draft and then after he was drafted and then after that first summer league with Chicago, I was like, this dude's going to be great. Like he's going to be really effing good. And then he started a little slow or whatever, started to pick it up a little bit. And then this last year in Orlando, like really kind of came into his own. And I was like, man, this dude is actually going to be that guy that I thought he was going to be. So Sean Devaney of Heavy Sports, I believe, linked the Lakers to Wendell Carter Jr. And then I've been asked about him over the course of the day. So I figured I'd go ahead and reach out to the people that I speak to normally and get a little bit of clarity and clarification, both from a Lakers and league perspective. The people that I spoke to kind of closer to the Orlando Magic side of things say that the Magic love Carter, still love Carter. He's probably going to be their starting center this year in a loaded front court. And if they do move him, it would take 2 first-round picks. So then I circled back to the Lakers and I was like, oh, well, if Carter's going to take 2 first-round picks, I would imagine that the Lakers aren't all that interested. And apparently, like, short answer, no. According to sources that I spoke to today, close to the Lakers, they aren't all that interested in spending both of their 2 available first-round picks on Wendell Carter Jr. But they did have talks with Orlando, and they have gone over various combinations of contracts and potential draft pick structures and stuff like that. And they've tried to find a workaround for it. But as we saw with Jeremy Grant, the Lakers and Orlando are kind of at a standstill right now because Orlando, I think rightly, is waiting for 2 first-round picks for Wendell Carter Jr. And the Lakers, if you factor in the situation, I think rightly are holding steady to not wanting to give up 2 first-round picks for Wendell Carter Jr. So that, like, that's where things stand between the two sides right now. I'm recording this at 9:26 my time here in Austin, Texas. 7:27. It just changed. See how quickly information changes. It is now 7:27 Pacific time. And as things stand right now, that is where those talks, I wouldn't say they broke down, but that's where they stand currently. That from both sides' perspective, there's no need to figure this out right away. And from both sides' perspective, there's no need to come off of their hardline stances right now. Orlando doesn't want to trade Wendell Carter Jr. for less than 2 first-round picks. And the Lakers don't want to trade their only 2 first-round picks for anything that is less than somebody that they know is going to start and finish games, which I don't think you could realistically say about Wendell Carter Jr. for a few reasons. First and foremost, Wendell Carter Jr., Anthony Davis, they are both best playing the 5. They just like flat out are. Wendell Carter Jr. is a 5. Anthony Davis at this stage of his career is a 5. And yeah, I think you could make it work with the two of them, like in some lineups together against certain matchups. Like it would be great to have Wendell Carter Jr. against Jokic and against Embiid and against Minnesota, right? And those teams, like you eventually are going to have to like improve your roster to go up against those teams. But against teams like Phoenix, against teams like OKC, against the Clippers, the Kings, the Warriors, depending on what they do, if they trade for Laurie, like I don't know if you necessarily are all that comfortable with Wendell and AD in your front court. And then most importantly here, you have LeBron James at the 4, and that is his primary position right now. And if you have Wendell and you have AD in a lineup, that forces LeBron to the 3. And I just don't think he has the foot speed to guard most threes. And then even more importantly, because I think on the ball, I think you'd be fine against most threes. But the issue with LeBron at the 3 is now if he is guarding like a Michael Porter Jr. or any other floor spacing 3, LeBron just isn't a very good off-ball defender when he's guarding a shooter, especially one that he doesn't necessarily respect all that much, whether it's as a shooter or as an overall basketball player. And I think that's where the Lakers would run into some issues there. So the Lakers did check in. They have had conversations with Orlando about Wendell Carter Jr. Those conversations have like stretched out over a decent amount of time. Rob and JJ and the coaching staff they are all there in Vegas already now. And those conversations with people around the league that they are looking to, make more productive than they have been to this point. They have already begun. And we'll see what comes of conversations now that they are in person. But on the Wendell Carter Jr. front specifically, I'm told that unless the Lakers change their stance on their willingness to send 2 first-round picks to Orlando, or Orlando changes their stance on their interest in moving Wendell Carter for anything less than 2 first-round picks, this trade is seen as unlikely. Another junior who has come up over the course of the last couple of days is Gary Trent Jr. I saw a report from Mark Stein, who has his Substack, about the situation between the Lakers and Gary Trent Jr. I'm looking to find it right now, the actual phrasing that he utilized here. Where is it? So this is an aggregation, so hopefully I have this like somewhat right. But one source close to the process cautioned this week that the Lakers, until they can move farther away from the second luxury tax apron, can't even make a run at Trent, no matter how available he appears to be. The Lakers, remember, are only marginally distanced from the second apron after LeBron James signed a new 2-year deal that was less than $3 million shy of the $104 million maximum he could have received. I like Mark. He has been really nice to Harrison and me specifically, a fellow Titan. But this feels like it's just kind of pointing out the obvious, right? In that, a source is telling him the way that the cap works. Yeah, the Lakers cannot bring Gary Trent Jr. in right now at the taxpayer, at any contract, frankly, right now. They don't have the roster spots available for him. And he is going to be looking for at least the taxpayer mid-level exception, and the Lakers can't offer that until they give themselves a bit more of a gap underneath the second apron. So in order to do that, the Lakers would have to move off of Cam Reddish's contract, Jackson Hayes' contract, potentially Christian Wood's contract. And as things stand right now, they obviously have not done that. Now, they have had talks, I'm told, with teams about those kinds of deals if it comes to making them. The thing for the Lakers is, I spoke to some people close to the Lakers, and there is some internal questioning, is how I'll phrase it, that Trent would actually sign at the $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception. And if that is something that he's going to do, he's going to take his time before he actually makes that decision, which gives the Lakers a little bit of time between now and when they have to shed those salaries. If Trent was interested in signing that taxpayer mid-level exception, I'm told the Lakers would have already moved the contract necessary to bring him in. They like Gary Trent Jr. They have liked Gary Trent Jr. now for a while. He would immediately become their starting shooting guard, and there is interest there. The thing from the Lakers' standpoint is that there is some internal pessimism that he would actually take that type of a contract right now. Seeing as he was looking for upwards of $25 million from the Toronto Raptors heading into his free agency. So will the guy be paid $20 million less per year than he was expecting to make on the market this year? That's where the Lakers are like, well, if he does show interest in doing that, then yeah, we'll do the work necessary to give him that opportunity in LA. Opportunity meaning the opportunity to sign in LA, but also importantly, the opportunity to, play, start and play and get necessary shots up and all of that stuff to be able to re-enter the free agent market next year when the cap is a little bit higher and teams have a little bit better understanding of how the aprons and this new CBA is going to work. There are people that I've spoken to close to the Lakers who are saying he's definitely on the radar. He has been on the radar this whole offseason. The issue is that, if he does take 5.2 mil, it won't be until later in the offseason when every other avenue to get paid a little bit more has been exhausted. So that's where things kind of stand now between the Lakers and Gary Trent Jr. and his possibilities on the free agent market. But, to be absolutely clear, the Lakers are interested and would be interested if he were to, be willing to take 5.2 mil per year. It's just that right now, the word around the league is that he is looking for any other opportunity that pays him a lot more than that. He thinks he is far and away more valuable than $5.2 million per year. And I tend to agree. I mostly agree. Now, what would it take to be able to bring Gary Trent Jr. in? First and foremost, it would take, the easiest path to this is finding a cap space team, whether it's Utah. I think Charlotte has mostly spent their cap space. I think Detroit has mostly spent their cap space. I believe San Antonio has spent, most or all of their cap space as well. Maybe Washington has a little bit left over, but not much. But the Lakers, the most straightforward path here is to trade Cam Reddish and Jackson Hayes or Christian Wood, whoever the Lakers prefer more over the other. I can't say which one they prefer over the other as it stands right now. But the Lakers would have to move those two guys into somebody's cap space, and they would have to expend draft capital to do so. And from the Lakers' perspective, I'm told that the Rob Pelinka in the front office are not willing to do that until they know for sure that they're going to get somebody at, who is worthwhile at that trade, at that taxpayer mid-level exception. And I think their preferred target would be Gary Trent Jr. But like I've said, the Lakers think eventually he's going to try to find or he is actually going to find some other way to get paid more than they would be able to offer. And if later in the offseason he doesn't have a path to getting paid more, then the Lakers at that point would find some way somehow to move those guys or to make another trade, whether it's a D'Angelo Russell, kind of salary dump, or moving those guys as part of a bigger trade, to free up a little extra space. Like the Lakers, I'm told, are confident that if it comes time, if they have the opportunity to sign Gary Trent Jr. at $5.2 million a year, that they would be able to make the moves necessary to give themselves that opportunity. It's just a matter of getting the intel necessary to make those moves confidently. And the good news here is that, like, Gary Trent Jr., I believe, is clutch. And the Lakers do have a good line of communication between them and Clutch, so that, if Clutch does let them know, yeah, the market kind of dried out, we don't have any other avenues right now, can we bring him in on a make good contract here and see what we can do? The Lakers would have to promise a starting spot. They would have to promise, I would imagine, a certain role, and maybe the Lakers wouldn't be interested in doing that. But if it means getting Gary Trent Jr. at 5.2 mil per year, that's a crazy discount. Like, I think his game has slipped a little bit, and I have real concerns about him on the defensive end, and just kind of in general, like his approach to basketball, I think has really eroded away because of the habits that you develop in situations where winning isn't maybe the top priority. But still, even with that said, Gary Trent Jr. at 5.2 mil per year is pretty damn tough to turn down. And if that is a path that the Lakers could take, then I'm told they would take it. Since we're talking about juniors, I'll go ahead and talk about Bronny, LeBron James Jr. And it's funny how people don't link those things. But no, Bronny, we've seen him play in a couple games so far, and I think very clear, very rough around the edges on offense, but also I think has great instincts defensively, has great tools, great physical tools defensively. Like, I think eventually he will become, at the very least, a good defensive player in the NBA. Whether he's good enough defensively and whether he raises his game offensively to the point where he'll have a legitimate role in the NBA, that's a different thing altogether. But as things stand right now, I've honestly been kind of put off by the Bronny discourse to this point. Like, I see people kind of tweeting out, man, look at his line score, and oh, here he is. I saw somebody from Miami made a nice spin move around him and got to the bucket and stuff like that. And it's like, well, this guy's supposed to be good defensively, and he couldn't even do that. It's like eventually you're going to get got defensively no matter what. I've been pretty annoyed, and this is me. Like, I didn't love the way that the Lakers handled his contract situation. And I also feel like the Lakers have overplayed the hand of Bronny earned it. It's like, oh, sure. Yeah, fine. He didn't, but okay. And still, despite my initial kind of aversion to the way all of this is kind of played out, even I'm like, come on, man. We don't have to be this disingenuous about the 55th pick in the NBA draft, who is probably going to be the 14th or 15th player on a play-in or low-seeded playoff team. We don't really need to expend this much energy to like tisk the Lakers for doing nepotism. Like, come on. I didn't see this amount of pearl clutching when J.R. Smith's brother Chris, or cousin or something like that, was playing for the New York Knicks. Obi Toppin's brother is, somewhere else in the league right now. Like, there are all kinds of, and like when you talk about nepotism, like the Los Angeles Lakers are nepotism. Like, there isn't a single person in their current position right now who wasn't hired either through nepotism or cronyism. Like, the Lakers, like the DeLorean and the Back to the Future series ran on trash. The Lakers are run on nepotism and cronyism. So like the idea that like this is the hard line that needs to be drawn at LeBron James is pretty ridiculous, to be completely honest, especially considering like of everybody in the organization, LeBron is the most capable at what he is expected to do. And I'm fine with rewarding him with this opportunity for his son, who, by the way, has looked fine, especially defensively. Like, you can make a real case that to this point, he has been the Summer League Lakers' best perimeter defender. It's kind of sad because the Lakers Summer League team is pretty bad, but like, he's holding his own. He hasn't embarrassed himself, and I feel like everybody is kind of, because everybody knows that once you type Bronny James into a tweet, you know it's going to do numbers one way or the other. And I feel like the way that people are treating this kid is pretty unfair to him. And it kind of goes back to the point I was making back when I was making it, that like, the people who guided Bronny to this point, I hope that they understood that this was coming. And I hope that they are there to kind of hype him up behind the scenes as he deals with all of this nonsense, because this nonsense isn't going anywhere. But I don't know. I have thought that like of the things that I have seen so far this year from this Lakers offseason, Bronny getting this opportunity is somewhere in the 80s in terms of like things that annoy me the most. And I wish the kid nothing but the best. Last little thing here before I dive into some of your guys' questions and comments from the live audience is I saw all of this stuff going on here with Jaylen Brown and Derek White. And Jaylen Brown apparently is pissed off that he didn't get the opportunity to play on Team USA after Kawhi Leonard dropped out. And the most pervasive take that I saw is that like Derek White fits Team USA better than Jaylen Brown does, when Jaylen Brown would be replacing Kawhi Leonard, who is like a Spider-Man meme for Jaylen Brown at this stage of both of their kids. Like, I don't know. It's super weird to people like to watch people say like, yeah, Derek White makes so much more sense for Team USA than Jaylen Brown does, as they replace Kawhi Leonard. Like, okay, so then are you saying that Derek White makes more sense for Team USA than Kawhi Leonard? Because like, he doesn't. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's insane. It's insane to see that like the far more talented player, Jaylen Brown, who does a lot of the things that like the Team USA would be looking to get from Derek White. Great perimeter defender, physical presence on defense, knocks down 3-point shots as well, some on-ball chops, and he's the fucking finals MVP. Like, the idea that the guy who was just the most important player in the in the championship series like a couple weeks ago is now a worse fit than some role player on that very team is just crazy to me. And like, all right, you're saying, well, maybe Jaylen Brown won't accept the role that Team USA needs from him. And it's like, Jaylen Brown has accepted a lesser role his entire career to this point. Jason Tatum has been the guy in Boston. And then it became clear that Jaylen Brown's a better player. So it's like, what are we doing? Like, I legitimately, I love NBA hipster Twitter and a whole bunch of people come from the Boston area. So there's going to be some like vested interest in not wanting to like ruffle feathers in that locker room coming off of a championship and stuff like that. And I think that might be a bit of a factor here too. But like this idea that Derek White makes so much more sense than Jaylen Brown does for Team USA. And anybody who questions whether or not the better player deserves this opportunity more than Derek White, when frankly, it doesn't effing matter. Like whether they pick Derek White or Jaylen Brown won't change whether or not Team USA wins gold. So like I personally would rather reward this year's finals MVP, you know, for winning finals MVP. And like this idea that like anybody who mentions the role that Jaylen Brown potentially questioning Nike might have in some of this decision making also is absolutely wrong to do so. It's crazy. It's like, I'm sorry. All of these things are factors. This guy stand for Kyrie Irving when Kyrie Irving was like absolutely untouchable in NBA circles. And frankly, I have some questions about what, like, I would like to know what Jaylen Brown feels about certain things. But like, also, if all I'm doing is putting together the best basketball team to go out and win me gold in the Olympics, and I have the choice between Jaylen Brown and Derek White, give me Jaylen Brown. It's not, this shouldn't be close. This shouldn't even be a conversation. And the fact that so many people on Twitter are treating this as if I am a crazy person for merely wanting the better basketball player on the basketball team, somebody who, by the way, has accepted a lesser role for his entire career to this point and been a good soldier while he did so, is insane. Anyway, I look, the move is already official. Derek White is going to be the guy. But if I were Jaylen Brown, I also would be pissed. And honestly, I'd force a trade out of Boston just out of spite. All right. There are a few starred comments here, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into those, and I will do so by first playing this bad boy. German Rather starts, if you had to put odds on the Lakers landing Wendell Carter Jr., what would they be? 10-1. You know, if they land him, you get to cash 10-1 odds on your money. I just don't see it. The Lakers, they only want to move 2 first-round picks for like a legit all-star. And I like Wendell Carter Jr., but he's not a legit all-star. So I don't see it happening. But you know what? Like the Lakers are going to start getting desperate, and we'll see if maybe they change their stance on this. History says they won't, but maybe, just maybe. Brandon Olming writes, if we get Kessler/Trent, is that a good offseason? I asked around on Kessler, and there's a bit of skepticism that Utah is going to be moving Kessler this offseason. Maybe eventually you arrive there, and maybe eventually, the Jazz kind of realize that they should be losing games anyway. And at that point, Kessler becomes more available than he is right now. But as things stand right now, I don't think Kessler is actually on the market. I think Lauri is a lot more on the market. And then if they do move Lauri, then you want to see what Kessler can be in an expanded role. And you want to see if he can up his trade value without Lauri there. So I don't think Kessler is going to happen. Trent could happen, especially as the market dries up around him. I hate seeing this stuff. I don't like it when guys have to sign well below market value, especially after Miles Bridges gets 3 years, $75 million. It sucks to see that, it really appears that Trent got bad advice this offseason and opted out when he probably shouldn't have. And now Toronto has kind of pulled offers for him. And at the very least, I saw that there were reports that Trent is definitely gone. He's not going back to Toronto, all that stuff. But if Toronto is like, hey man, what about 12 mil? Let's give you something to save face here. You're still a good player. Maybe we'll be able to trade you as an expiring contract on, at the deadline or something like that. I would imagine that's more likely than he signs outright for 5.2 mil somewhere else. But Toronto, by all reports, seems like they've moved on. And if they have, then I just don't see any other avenues that Trent has at getting paid in the way that he is looking to get paid. Angelico Rezzo writes, Rob and the Lakers front office should work tirelessly to ensure that D'Lo, Cam, JHS, Lewis, and a pick are traded for Sexton and Kessler, improve defense, shed salary, and open up roster spots. Well, the problem is Lewis isn't an NBA player. Jalen Hood-Schifino also might not be one. Cam is a borderline NBA player. And so the only NBA player that you're talking like definite bona fide NBA player there is D'Angelo Russell, and his market is kind of crap right now. And the idea that you're going to turn those 4 players and 1 pick into 2 impact NBA players is pretty far-fetched. They could try, and I'm sure the Lakers are trying, but Danny Ainge has far better options at his disposal than that trade combination. All right, final one here comes from Vinny Jaj. Do the Lakers just expect to trade minimum contracts instead of cutting them? But the more we wait, we will lose players like Gary Trent Jr. Are the Lakers trying to make moves soon? Any new info on the Nets and Cam Johnson? All right, so the problem with just cutting players is that their salary still counts against your cap. So you wind up just losing those players and you don't free anything up other than the roster spot. And the Lakers, I'm told, don't think that the players you would be replacing those guys with are any better than the players than they currently have on their books right now. Whether you agree or disagree, that's how the Lakers feel about it right now. And then, are you risking losing Gary Trent Jr.? Yeah, of course. At any moment, he could come to some agreement with some team for $5.3 million, which is more than the Lakers could offer him, under the best of circumstances. And then you miss out on that too. But from the Lakers' perspective, they're sitting here saying like it behooves them to wait this out. And as his market dries up around him, they would be able to step in and say, hey, we have a track record of bringing guys in below the amount that they would have wanted to sign in the first place and turning them into, like rehabilitating their career. Malik Monk is like the example that they could point to there. Just hope that they don't mention Cam Reddish because that has not happened. But that's the risk. And the Lakers, there isn't anything that they can do right now but to wait it out and risk losing Gary Trent Jr. while they wait it out. But again, like it's not really risking losing him if the risk is that he could sign elsewhere for more than the Lakers can offer right now. Like, there's just not anything the Lakers can do. And the Lakers don't want to commit draft capital and lose the talent off of their roster before they know that Gary Trent Jr. would be coming at that $5.2 million taxpayer mid-level exception. All right. That is going to do it here for this episode of the Lakers Lowdown. I'm going to edit this, post it, and throw it onto the feed for tomorrow morning. And then tomorrow I will be traveling to Vegas where I will have my equipment. I will be ready to go. If we get any kind of breaking news, I will race back to where I am staying and record as quickly as I possibly can to react to any kind of breaking news that we get. So until then, and until the next time you guys hear from me, I'm Anthony Irwin saying have a great rest of your day, make somebody else's, and I will talk to you tomorrow.